Do you want to learn how to earn commissions of up to 20% by laundering millions of foreign dollars?
Well, we can't help you with that. But among the many IT problems we solve, Barracuda's email security solutions keep email phishing attacks like this from entering your business network and any valuable data from leaking out. Reclaim your network like 150,000 other businesses have. To learn more about stopping email-borne threats, visit barracuda.com/email.
We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
We have everything it takes to win. And, like you said, I've been there twice. We have grit. We have determination. We have the willingness to want to be great, and that's from the first guy all the way down to the 15th. I think our coaching staff is going to prepare us the best way they know how to go against whoever comes out of the Western Conference, and we'll be ready to go on June 4th.
All right, welcome into the NBA Lockdown podcast alongside Ramona Shelburne and Amin Elhassan. I'm Jorge Sedano, and that was LeBron James yesterday, courtesy of TNT, Turner Sports, after the Cavs eliminated the Atlanta Hawks, and I believe that was also pre-hot tub experience with J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Kendrick Perkins, and Kyrie Irving. We may be in our own hot tub right now, in the NBA Lockdown hot tub. You may not even know that, actually. It's theater of the mind, I guess, at this point. So, all right, well, first things first, I guess, what do we make of this series as a whole? Like, what surprised you? What didn't surprise you? Ramona, we'll start with you.
I thought the Hawks were going to do better at home. Like I was real surprised they dropped those first two games, and once they lost those, then the series was pretty much over. And I think when you look at the Hawks, like all year long, we've been talking on this podcast, on TV, on radio, and everything. Are the Hawks for real? And I don't know that we get to answer that question. I mean, the evidence says they're not because they lost and they got swept. Number one seed getting swept like this. But they also didn't have a healthy DeMar Carroll. Kyle Korver gets hurt. Obviously, I still cannot believe this isn't a bigger story with Thabo Cephalosha, who got his leg broken by with the NYPD Blue, I mean, I don't know if we really saw the Hawks in this series, I don't know if we really get to see the best of the Hawks. I would have liked to have seen that. But when you look at it, it's like the Cavs did what they were supposed to do. The Hawks didn't.
I mean,
that's funny. Yeah, it's funny. Ramona said by NYPD Blue. All I could think was Sibowicz being out there with the short sleeve shirt and his tie.
I thought you were going to talk about Thabo Cephalosha.
Well, I am, but I just want to start with a light joke. Thanks, George. Thanks for ruining the segue. But I think you're right, Ramona. We can't judge this Hawks team by what happened to them because that wasn't their team, right? Their team was a lot deeper, and Cephalosha got hurt in March, and they didn't play well when he was out. And then he comes back, and then he gets hurt again, and an unfortunate act of alleged police brutality. And I think that changed a lot for them. And because he's not a 25-point-a-game scorer, because he's not Kevin Love, right, where we see immediately, he scores 18 to 20 points a game and grabs 10 rebounds, because his impact isn't measured like that. We tend to discount it, but I think that was a huge blow for them. The DeMar Carroll thing didn't help. And then I think the Al Horford ejection, I really truly believe that was the last straw that broke them. And the reason I say that is if you look at Game 4, Dellavedova comes in, and within 30 seconds, Jeff Teague is already getting into it with him. Mm-hmm. To me, he got under their skin. That incident was bothering them into Game 4. You could tell by their comments and how they're calling Dellavedova, a dirty player and all. They couldn't move past that incident. And it was unfair. It was unfair that Horford got ejected for that. But you can't just keep carrying it with you. And ultimately, I thought that was their demise.
LeBron heads to his 5th straight NBA Finals. He becomes the first non-Celtic, I guess, or the first player since the Celtics back in the 60s to do that. But where's the love for James Jones? Last time I checked, he's going to 5 straight finals too.
Hey, and he's older than LeBron.
Yeah.
He's older than LeBron, so technically he did it first.
Exactly. He is older than LeBron. Either way, there's talk about, on some of the talk shows today, is this LeBron's best performance in his postseason career? I hear that stuff, and I guess I know we have to ask those questions, but I find it kind of laughable. I mean, LeBron is shooting 43% from the field this postseason. That's the worst since the 07-08 season for him in the postseason. He's shooting terribly from three-point land. He's at 17 or 18%. He's not necessarily getting to the free throw line as much as he has in his career. I think it's 7 times a game. He averages throughout his career in the postseason 9, almost 10 times a game. I don't understand how anyone could view it as this being one of his best postseason performances.
I think I can explain this one.
Look.
I think I might have an explanation for this one. Hold on. I wanted to get. Can it be not his best, but can it be his greatest? And here's why. He obviously hasn't been as efficient, nowhere near as efficient. Hey, anytime you can go 1 for 5 from 3, and that will bring your percentage up, that's saying a lot, right? He's not been as dominant as we've seen him in the past. And there's a great chance that he won't be as successful as we've seen him in the past, meaning they're going to get knocked off by the Warriors in the finals. But having said all that, given the expectation level with all the things that have happened to that team throughout the year and into the playoffs and what they've done, he's kind of exceeded expectations higher than any other season. Does that make sense?
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I look at some of the teams that he carried to Cleveland. I'm not even talking about, forget about Miami. I'm looking at some of those teams he carried deep into the playoffs the first time in Cleveland. And to me, that was a much bigger deal than what he's doing right now, and certainly much better play.
I mean, honestly, when I think you and your details, you and your statistics, right?
Yeah, let's not let facts get in the way, Ramona.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, this is a good narrative right here. This is a good story. Come on now. Yeah, but when I watch LeBron, like, he got his team there, like, by any means necessary. Now, was it pretty? No. Did they have to, like, crawl over a dysfunctional Bulls team to get there? Yes. Did they beat up the Hawks once they got hurt and started falling apart at the seams? Yeah, but you know what? Like, they put the hammer down. Like, when they had teams on the ropes, they finished them off. And I think that's really the story of, that's what LeBron's done so well in his playoff career. And, like, when you look at I know his stats are not going to look that impressive, but his usage rate is higher than it's almost ever. I mean, he's doing everything for that team, whether or not it shows up in how many points he's scoring or whatever it is. Like, that team is revolving around him on every level. And for him to be able to sweep this series, sweep the Boston series, get that series with the Bulls done faster, close it out rather than take it all the way to Game 7, that's huge. And like, it hasn't been a great playoffs just because of all the injuries in so many of these different series, but compare what Cleveland did to what happened with the Clippers, right, where you have a team on the ropes and you just don't finish them, right? You have a couple of series where, like, you extended unnecessarily and things happen. And so that's one of the things I want to give LeBron credit for, is, like, that's a playoff veteran, a guy who's been to the finals and knows I only have so many minutes in me in these playoffs.
Well, Josh, can I get a nerd alert here? Can I get a nerd alert?
Nerd alert!
Okay. I'm hearing you on the usage rate and how much he's had to put on himself in this series because of the injuries and whatnot. But he had the same usage rate in 08-09, and he shot 51% from the field and scored 35 points a game. So it's not like he hasn't done this before. And last time I checked, I mean, at least he had Kyrie Irving a little bit in this series. And he has better pieces around him as opposed to when he had Mo Williams as his second best player that particular season.
But hold on, though. But George, at the time, though, even though we look back now and say, oh my God, he had this cast of castaways pretty much, and he took them to 60+ wins and conference finals and NBA finals and all that. At the time, they still were. I mean, that team that with Mo Williams, when they won 127 games in 2 years, that was an excellent team.
Mm-hmm.
I know it wasn't, but that was an excellent
year. Are you serious?
127 wins in 2 years? 127 wins
of anyone else.
Okay, but all right, but this team is not that good.
This team is better than that team.
Barely 155.
This team.
What are we talking about here?
This team on
paper,
but they is far better than
But when they played, no, it's not.
What?
You know why? You know why it's not far better? Because 2009 LeBron ain't walking through that door.
What are we?
That's why it's not better.
Well, 2009 LeBron wasn't as well-rounded a player as today's LeBron.
Mm-hmm. See, I think when I watched when 2009 LeBron was physically dominant, but I don't like when you learn how to win, when you learn how to get your team through a playoffs, like it's just different. It's you don't have to be as physically dominant or statistically dominant or over. I mean, you don't have to be that same guy to win, but you know how to win. Like, and I think whatever he's done leadership-wise, or even just out on the court and the way he runs that offense now, without Kyrie, who's been hurt for most of these playoffs, without Kevin Love, I mean, it's a whole different. It's a different LeBron. It's older, more mature LeBron. His game has evolved. He knows how to guide the team there. I mean, I think you got to give him a lot of credit. I think that I don't know. I don't think that this team is way better talent-wise than those teams that they used to have. But all those guys got hurt. Like Kyrie and Kevin Love got hurt, you know?
But that doesn't mean anything, the people that are suggesting that the individual performance this postseason is better than in years past, no. I think that 2008-2009 season, I mean, I gave you the numbers. I gave you the usage rate. I gave you the players around him. I mean, that's not even close as far as I'm concerned.
No, to me, I think you guys are missing the boat here. I think you guys are focused on paper. On paper, guess what? These guys had 82 games to shred that piece of paper. They were good. They weren't all world. They were a good team with everybody healthy. Look at that team that played the Celtics in the first round. You're telling me that team was dominant? That was an incredible team right there. Ooh, beating the Celtics in 2 possession games in the first round. Come on, man. This team isn't great. This is why when we give them this credit, this is why people are surprised when we turn around and say the Warriors are going to annihilate them in the finals.
Listen,
because you just told us they're great.
I agree with you, but I think they're going to annihilate them because you're not going to be able to play this ISO garbage against the #1 defense in the league. And you know what? To further my point, look at this. Through 39 games this season, you know what the Warriors were? 33-6. We all know the Cavs were 19-20. After last night, the Cavs will be 46-11 since then, and the Warriors 45-12. So don't give me that this team isn't better than the team that he played with in 2008-2009. That's nonsense.
All right, man. You're entitled to your opinion. I disagree. I think you're right. On paper, the names are bigger, but that team knew its identity. They played together. And they were very successful over an extended period of time. It wasn't just
but your problem is you're adding
2 years, 127 wins.
Post-trade, that team is completely different.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to
Is it
start a team
127 wins?
I don't think it comes down to this. If you want to start a team, with the 2009 Cavs or that version of them, then go right ahead. But I would rather take this version. I want that talent.
Right. Ramona and I are on the same page. This team is far better than that 2009 team. That LeBron, though, I think, with worse players, was better and more efficient than this LeBron.
Exactly. So you just made my point. LeBron was better back then than he is now.
What?
You just said that LeBron in 2009 was better and played with worse teammates, right? Did you not just say that? Can we rewind that?
Dude, do you realize the first part of this conversation was people are saying that this was his best postseason performance, and I said no, and we were talking about 2008, 2009 with Cleveland, and that performance that he put up in that postseason. I don't understand what you're arguing. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, but I've said that the whole time.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
What are we talking about, indeed? What are we talking about? Let's move on.
Listen, man, I feel like you're in the corner swinging, and you got nothing else going on right now. That's what you're doing. You're just recklessly swinging. You're like J.R. Smith right now.
#hate hard.
Like I said, I guess I go back to my point. This wasn't his best performance, but it might be his greatest because he exceeded expectations. I don't think the LeBron of 2009 exceeded expectations. I think this LeBron is exceeding expectations. That was my whole point.
Okay. Well, that's intangible stuff we can't measure. So, I mean, whatever.
No, it is stuff we can measure. Did you think that this team?
I don't know. I think most
was
people
gonna
thought
go to
2008, 2009 LeBron was gonna. They thought LeBron was superhuman, and then we look back and realize, oh yeah, you know what? That team around him stunk.
But that's my point, though, right? I'm just talking about we can't use the benefit of hindsight to judge, right?
Well, but we have something to compare it to now.
I don't know. I disagree.
Look at that. Look, I think for the first time in the history of this podcast, somebody shut up Amin.
I did. I said I disagree. I said I disagree.
All right. So anyway, all right. Are they gonna get whacked, or are they gonna make this a series? Ramona, let's start with you.
Yeah, let's start with me, man. You guys are going. I think that, like, if you look on paper, this is the discussion we've been having, right? If you look on paper, they should get whacked. But I don't know. LeBron is the best player in the game, and he's been there, and he's got a week off now to rest, and they all do. And so I think we're looking at a good series. It just feels like.
Hold on.
I'm not counting him out ever after what I've seen the last couple of years. Like, he can get his team and have a good series, and I think Golden State's going to be healthy. They're going to be healthy. I'm sorry, Golden State. I'm already putting them in the finals, but they got.
Yeah, don't do that, Ramona. We're not gonna play that game. They're going. They're gonna. My trap.
You're speaking to the girl who I covered that Clippers Rocket series, and so I'm eating a lot of crow the last week or so.
But Ramona, the difference is.
Yeah.
The difference is, Little B is going to be in attendance tonight, so that's good.
Can I tell you, Little B is so into this. He's like DMing me on Twitter all the time. I love ESPN. I was like, he to come up with a Warriors song. He's coming out with the Warriors song if they get into the finals.
That's fantastic.
Blame Ramona. Let's get that hashtag going. Hashtag blame Ramona when that song comes out.
But so you think that the Warriors are going to win?
I mean, they have 2 home games. This is why it's different from the Clippers series, is that, when the Clippers get up 3-1, they only have 1 home game in the last 3. When the Warriors get up, well, they were 3-0, and then it's 3-1, they've got 2 home games. So even if this extends past tonight's game, which I don't think it will, they still have Game 7 at home. And I just can't see the best home team in the NBA, the team that lost 2 home games all season long. I can't see them going out like that. I can't see them losing the next 2 home games and really four straight games in a row to the Houston Rockets. I just can't see it.
You know another difference, Ramona, between that Clippers Rocket series and this Warriors Rocket series? Clips gonna clip. That's the difference. That's the difference. It's not the Clippers. The Clippers are gonna do that kind of thing, and the Warriors aren't. This is again. More from ESPN stats and info. Warriors are outscoring opponents in the playoffs by 9 points, 9.2 points, I think, a game. The last 6 teams to outscore their opponents in the playoffs by 9 or more points, not the last 6, excuse me, the only 6 teams in NBA history to do that. Guess what they went on to do? Win an NBA championship. Every day, stats and info sends us more things that the Warriors are doing. And every time they have a list of teams, the only teams in NBA history to do what the Warriors are doing, every single time that column says championship, we got nothing but straight Y's down there. Again, I think we do fans a disservice because we want to hedge our bets and we want to CYA and we want to say all these things. Well, LeBron could take over and, well, this could happen and, well, crazier things have happened. No, crazier things haven't happened. This team is going to win the championship because they are a dominant team. And the quicker we understand and accept that, the better for the sport, because otherwise we still have these people saying these nonsensical things like a jump shooting team can't win a championship. A team with no dominant big man can't win a championship. These are all just falsehoods that everybody hides behind.
That ain't true!
Well,
I'm with you.
Here's my only counter argument for you, Amin, is what happened in Game 4 when Trevor Ariza undercut Steph Curry.
Okay, well, that's different.
So much about the Warriors' success, like, as good as they are, they've also been relatively healthy this year. And I think that there's no other team you can really say that. And I'm going to knock on wood for them here. Can you hear me? I'm knocking on wood because I don't even want to see that. I don't want any more injuries affecting the playoffs the way they have already. But when Steph Curry got undercut and he was out for a little while, like just in real terms of how long. It was 50 minutes, almost an hour that he was out, where you were like, oh my God, did he break his wrist? Does he have a concussion? Did he break his neck? I mean, that looked bad. And when you look at that, so much is based around Steph Curry. Like, if something were to happen to him, I think it all sort of falls apart. But that's the only caveat. I think you're right. I think the Warriors win. I think they're too deep. They're too good. They have too many ways of beating you. Like, they're not just a jump shooting team. Like, really, in Game 4, you know what happened in Game 4 is they didn't respect their opponent. They let Houston get off to a good start. They get down by 20, and then Steve Kerr's got to do this interview with Doris Burke. And you know, there's an unofficial rule where you're not supposed to have to do the in-game interview if it's more than 20 points. Well, that never comes up in the first quarter. And he said to Doris, we still have to do this? We're down 20. And I mean, it's like, that's how bad they let that team get out in front of them. They didn't respect the Rockets. It's the same thing that happened in the Clippers series. They let their guard down. They didn't respect their opponent. The Rockets made them pay. I mean, they're a scrappy team. And, like, you know, I always talking with Jason Terry on that team. I was like, how are you guys have another one of these in you? And he said, the race is not won by the one that is strong or swift, but by the one that endures. Don't be surprised. This team still believes. And I can tell you, having seen game to game, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, what happened to the Clippers was in each of those games, the pressure mounted, right? When you let a team breathe, all of a sudden they get one game, then they get another game, and then by the time you get to Game 7, now all of the pressure has shifted. All of it is on the Clippers. Like, are you really going to blow this? Are you going to be one of the only 8 teams in history to blow a 3-1 series lead? And I just felt like just being around them, that pressure just got to them. And I know, Clippers going to clip. You're right. That's something that was like the most Clippers thing ever. And I feel so bad for their fans because they let them. They got into that team. They started believing after they beat the Spurs, and they thought things had really changed, and they didn't. But I just don't see this Warriors team going on that same path. I just they'll finish it off tonight, barring something crazy happening.
The other thing about the Clippers, I know we joke a lot about Clippers going clip. But there's also something very, very real that happened, which is the Clippers had 5.5 players that they were playing.
Right. That's what I was going to mention. You said before the playoffs that you got to see if the wheels are going to fall off those guys.
Right. And that's what happened. Because every additional game, Ramona, you're right, the pressure does mount. Because now it's like, why haven't you taken care of business? Why haven't you taken care of business? And when you get to Game 7, the pressure's all on you. The Rockets are playing with house money. But part of that also is these guys are tired and worn out, and they can't survive any more Austin Rivers dribbling off his face plays. They can't survive any more big baby kind of like swim motion in the paint. They can't survive Hedo Turkoglu looking like he needs a cigarette break. They can't survive that in Game 7.
Can't do it.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that happened, and that wouldn't happen to the Warriors because their bench is incredible.
They were just flat out exhausted. I mean, that's the thing too. It's like I've never, that team. We all, yes, it was pressure. Yes, it burst the pipes and everything, but they were really tired at the end of that because you're leaning on Chris. I mean, Blake Griffin averaged 39.8 minutes a game in the playoffs. Jeez. Like he's 40 minutes, basically 40 minutes a game. That's too much.
Yeah.
And you saw him in that game defensively, but that wasn't Blake Griffin. He didn't have the same explosiveness or lift or anything like that. And I think what you said, they have 5.5 good players. When you go an aesthetic series, I don't even know if I'd say they have 5.5 good players. I think they have 3.5 really. And you add the other.
Wow.
Hashtag.
Matt Barnes is coming at you.
Hashtag.
Matt Barnes
is a good player, but is he an all-star? No.
Okay.
Okay,
but they don't even have. They don't need all-stars. They don't even have good rotation players. That's what I want to say.
Between Matt Barnes, J.J. Redick, and Jamal Crawford in those last 3 games, it was rough. I mean, I'll just phrase it like that. Like, I've never seen J.J. Redick miss the kind of shots that he missed. Like, he didn't just miss. Like, he was way off. It wasn't just like a little short or a little long. It was off by 4 inches. And like, J.J. Redick's too good of a shooter to miss like that. But he'd been so tired from chasing James Harden around the whole series. I mean, defensively, that was his matchup. Jamal Crawford, he gave them something in that 7th game, but that wasn't Jamal Crawford. I mean, they were gassed, and like I just think the Warriors have that. They have a killer instinct at home. They have all year long. They were still trying to win games at home. The last couple of weeks of the season when they had an 11-game lead on the second place, everybody was in the running for second place. They were still trying to win games at home because they wanted to make Oracle that scary of a place for everybody to come into.
All right, here's what we're going to do. Yesterday we talked about Dwight and would he get suspended or not. Now, I mean, you said yesterday you'd be shocked if he wasn't. Now, he isn't. Rod Thorne came out and thought that it wasn't excessive, was the word he used. So you said you'd be surprised. What do you make of the decision?
No, I'm shocked. Again, I didn't think he should get suspended because the play was that bad.
Correct.
I just felt like the precedent that we'd set in the playoffs, starting with J.R. Smith and what's his name? Not DeMar Carroll. Jay Crowder. Starting with J.R. Smith and Jay Crowder, which was an identical play. Player A shoves player B in the back. Player B retaliates with a blind swing of his fist backwards. The only difference is Crowder twisted his knee when he fell, and Bogut didn't. That's the only difference. And once we've set that precedent and repeated it with the Horford play, repeated it with the Gibson play, Todd Gibson, all we're saying is these are all flagrant twos. Then to turn around and say that what Dwight did was not a flagrant two, I just felt that was fraudulent.
I mean, I'm glad he's not suspended because I'm tired of all these guys getting ejected and suspended. I mean, I still can't, the Al Horford play, the Taj Gibson play. I mean, they've changed too many games and too many series. And, I'm glad that he wasn't suspended. But the hard part is, you're right. Like, when one of those guys gets ejected from a game and it affects the outcome, and then, something similar happens and you don't do it, it's hard for these guys because of the inconsistency. And I know that's what people are reacting to. And it's not good look for the league when the ruling comes down and 3 minutes later, Stu Jackson, who's the guy who used to have Rod Thorne's job, tweets out, "I can't believe they didn't upgrade it." I mean, it's like that's not a good look for the league. It's just not. But I'm glad he didn't do it. I'm glad he didn't suspend him because I want to see players play.
That's Stu Jackson does hate hard on Twitter, I feel like, a lot.
Right?
We don't get into that enough, I feel like. He totally does hate hard on Twitter. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm glad. I'm with both of you, basically. And I mean, you and I talked about it yesterday. We didn't want to see him get suspended, but right, I thought that it was headed down that path because you made a point, and it was a valid one at the time, that the NBA has in essence boxed itself in. Well, apparently, it's the box is open. The lid is open, and they can stretch out a little bit out of that box, and they're all right. But
easy, George.
Okay. I don't even know where you're going with that.
Okay, never mind.
I don't know where your mind is, but
what are we talking about?
Talking about other things. So anyway, the point is, I think we want to see the best go against the best, right? And look, the Rockets are already sort of dinged up, right? They don't have Beverly. They don't have Montejunas. They haven't had them during the postseason. So you want to see them, at least their two best players, to have a shot to maybe extend this series. So, yeah, I think that for the fans' sake, I think they got it right. I mean, if I'm Al Horford, though, I would be upset. If I'm Taj Gibson, I would be upset, and I wouldn't blame them. But, it is what it is at this point.
J.R. Smith got 2 games. J.R. Smith got ejected and got 2 games for the same exact play. There was no difference. The only difference was one dude twisted his knee and the other dude didn't.
History?
But it's the same
history
play.
Play a factor there?
Maybe, but Dwight's hardly a choir boy.
No.
He's been known to throw the balls. He's been known. He's not J.R. Smith, but and then even if we're just talking about this year, I got hit up by a lot of Grizzlies fans who made a great point. Zach Randolph got suspended for Game 7.
Yeah,
Game 7 for doing the same thing.
Wait a second.
Come on, NBA. And this
Wait
is
a second.
What's up?
Grizzlies fans were getting at you like in a nice way.
In a nice way. Yeah.
Warriors in 3.
Imagine that.
Warriors in 3. Sorry.
Okay.
Hey.
You did.
Hey, you know what happened?
They saw
Well, look. They saw the light of day. They saw a better team out there. They kicked their tail. And once you're past the storm, you can always look back and say, yeah, that was pretty bad. When you're in the eye of it, I get it. They have to. Those are the fans I respect, by the way. If you come back to me later and you can just say, hey, man, it was I respect you. If you're coming back to me and still saying, well, if Tony Allen has been healthy, I'm like, okay, you need to sit down. But yes, they made a great point. Zach Randolph got suspended for a Game 7. You know, this Rockets team, they dug their 0-3 hole. That wasn't a suspension that did it to him. They dug that hole. So if he does something to jeopardize that, he's got to stand up. He's got to stand up for it. Or you got to do the same for all these other people who got screwed over, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, it was an interesting decision, but you know what? I think we're getting the best game, and at this point, that's all I care about. And I know that's selfish, but whatever. It is what it is. Sorry, Zach Randolph. Sorry, J.R. Smith. Sorry, Al Horford. And sorry, Taj Gibson. But anyway, all right. We've got, speaking of Al Horford, since we brought him up, coming up in 60 seconds, we're going to take a look at what's next maybe for Atlanta. Plus, is Chicago doing Tibbs dirty? That's coming up next in 60 seconds on the NBA Lockdown Podcast.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to the NBA Lockdown Podcast alongside Ramona Shelburne and Amin Elhassan. I'm Jorge Sedano. All right, so we've talked a lot about the two teams that look like they're heading to the NBA Finals. One of the teams that lost last night, the Atlanta Hawks, there could be some movement, potentially some roster movement. What do you expect from this team? I mean, what does this team need to do with its roster to take that next step, in your opinion?
I love their team. There's not much. Obviously, Millsap's a free agent. Got to make sure he comes back. DeMar Carroll's a free agent. Got to make sure he comes back. The two things I would do, and I know a lot of Hawks fans will be upset about one of these. One is obviously they need a backup big. They need somebody who they can bring in to lay the wood on people. And Pero Antic was nice, but they need a higher caliber version of that. The other thing, they need a backup point guard or at least somebody who can play on that second unit. And when Dennis Schroeder is having one of these nights where he just lost his mind, to settle things down and be like, calm down, young fella, we're going to get through this. But I would hate for them to look at this season and say, well, that didn't work, and then try and be traditional all over again with a high-volume score. I love what they did. I think they need to stay on this path and just continue to tweak at that bench.
Ramona?
Well, when you look at it, they just need to bring everybody back. And I think that what we were talking about earlier, that we didn't see the Hawks. Like we saw Kyle Korver's hurt, DeMar Carroll's hurt. You know, Thabo Cephalosha's his leg broken by the NYPD. I'm just gonna keep saying that over and over because I still can't believe that was not a bigger story in the world of sports. But they just need to bring everybody back because I think they really learned how to play together this year, and like that team is so much a system team, just like the Spurs are. And the one thing I think the Spurs did that would be good for the Hawks is to just have some young guys and bring them along, and I think they're doing that. But what you're saying to me, like they need some guys in those backup roles, and usually those are young guys. So I think they'll go out and I think they'll find a few gems there. I'm not so sure that they can bring all their guys back. I think Horford will stay, but people are going to throw a lot of money at DeMar Carroll. I mean, I know the Knicks are going to throw a lot of money at him. The Lakers love him. They may be forced to make some interesting decisions right out of the gate, that new ownership group who's going to be taking over this offseason. For a guy like they haven't traditionally been a team that has a big payroll. They haven't been built that way. But if somebody throws $8 to $10 million a year at DeMar Carroll, are they going to be in the bidding? I don't know. So this will be. I think what they really need to do is just bring everybody back. But will they actually do it with the amount of money that's going to be thrown around at some of their guys? Be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm with Amin. I think you got to bring him back, and I'm curious to see what happens with Millsap. That's the person I'm most curious to see. Bless you. I do think that DeMar is likely to come back, but what about Millsap? Like, is he a guy that you view and you say to yourself, maybe we can do something else with that money? He's obviously going to have other suitors as well, is my guess. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I'm getting better at putting a dollar figure on him. I know the teams I talk to really like Carroll in terms of, like, I think he's an $8 to $10 million a year guy now after the season he's had and what he's shown. Mm-hmm. I don't know where Millsap ranks at this point in his career in terms of money, but it's going to be he's going to get some good offers.
Millsap, I have him as he's going to be a max player this summer. And remember, the max is different depending on how many years you've been in the league. So for a player of Millsap's experience, less than 10 years in the league, so the max for him would start at about $18.9 million and work its way up.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, but I mean, this dude has proven he's one of the best power forwards in the game. I think this year he's so versatile. He's such a tough player. He's a culture setter. You know, NBA teams are always, especially if you're a bad team, Ramona. If you're the Knicks, you're the Lakers.
Yep.
You don't just need talent. You need a dude who can come in there, be an example to young players, keep those guys in mind. When I was in Phoenix, we tried to trade for Millsap several times, and Utah would never budge because it said it's not just his talent that we need or we value. He is our team. He is our team's identity in that locker room. Much in the same way that a guy like Tony Allen, for instance, is for Memphis.
Yeah.
Except, obviously, he brings, Millsap brings a lot more talent to the table. So I don't think it's far-fetched to give him max. Now, are you going to give him 4 years? Maybe not. Maybe it's a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal or something like that. Maybe it doesn't escalate the whole way through. Maybe it just starts flat at the max and doesn't have any raises. But his starting salary is going to be at the $18, $19 million mark. Because remember, the cap is going to go up a year later, and then that's not going to seem like that much money. So, and that's the main thing that we always have to keep in mind is that what sounds expensive today is not going to be necessarily expensive a year from now. And that's the same reason why DeMario Carroll will make $8 to $10 million, like you said, Ramona. I think that's a very fair estimate because if you say $10 million for a guy who, all he does is this, that, and the other, but in 2 years, they're all going to get paid that much. Guess what? Danny Green's getting that much. Chris Middleton's getting that much. All of these guys are going to get paid in that range this year.
Yeah, 2015 prices. It's a good year to be a free agent this year because, everybody's going to get a lot in 2016 when the cap goes up. But there's going to be a lot of people who get money now for 2015 prices who you wouldn't have got last year or the year before even that because you're trying to get in and get them at their reasonable prices.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that the cap is going to go up so much. You're going from $67 million to $90 million or approximately $90 million. That's going to change a lot of things for everyone, really. And it's going to change. Danny Green may get more than $8 to $10 million, some people think. So, that's just going to be where the marketplace is because people are projecting out as opposed to looking at what's just the case for one particular season.
George, I actually did the math about this. And pretty much if we judge from today's cap, which is about 63.1, and where we expect it to be in not this summer, but a summer later, basically $89 million in summer 2016. We're talking about an increase of 40%, a 40% jump in the cap. So what I always urge people is, if you think DeMario Carroll making $10 million is too much, remember that proportionately speaking, you have to factor in that there will be a 40% jump in the cap by 2016. So $10 million 2 years from now is going to be the equivalent of basically take 6/10 of that, which is quick math.
$6 million.
$6 million today.
There you go.
$6 million today.
Yep.
So think about that. If I said DeMario Carroll for $6 million, you'd be like, oh, so he had a great year. He's a good. So, but when we say $10 million, oh, that's so much. But 2 years from now, it's going to be the equivalent of a $6 million contract.
Yeah.
Can we edit out that long pause when I was in the math?
Can't do it.
I got you.
So one last thing before we go today. Our Nick Friedel reported that it looks like Chicago may be looking to wait for all the jobs, the coaching jobs and the vacancies to fill up before they decide to move on from Tibbs. Now, that's dirty. There's no other way you can shake this thing down. But I'll tell you this, it shouldn't be that surprising. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, and the reason I say that is because Chicago, under Jerry Reinsdorf, has done some shady stuff. I don't think people remember how that whole Phil Jackson thing went down at the end. Obviously, even the Jordan stuff went down at the end. Pippen, all that stuff, the way it went down at the end wasn't pretty. And I know it was 15, 16 years ago, but at least I still remember how that stuff went down. So based on that, this to me is just kind of the status quo of how they've done business throughout his tenure as the owner. And they've also been notoriously cheap in many years, and that never gets to exposed, at least to the mainstream. But that's certainly been kind of their MO as well. But how do you guys feel about this?
I mean, I can tell you there's no love lost between Tibbs and the front office, and there hasn't been for a while. This isn't something that just happened this year. It's been brewing for several years. And so I think it's one of those situations where nobody trusts each other. And when you don't have trust, it's hard to then try to repair that, because you have to give trust to get trust. And I think, when they know, if you're Tibbs and you're his agent and his representation are people who are, his friends around the league, he's got to go cover himself by working back channels. Like, if he's going to be out in Chicago, you got to find other places. That's why you see weird stories like, oh, the Lakers had interest in Tibbs. Like, yeah, that was last year, but there's somebody leaked that weird story, and I was like, no, that was last year. They're happy with Byron Scott, but you have to create a market for Tibbs, which means you're going to be working back channels. Well, if you're the Bulls and you see that kind of stuff, unless you're going to get a first-round pick for him, why would you help him? Why would you try to set him up in a way that he has another good job and he can go on and succeed and prove that you shouldn't have let him go, right? Or prove whatever he's going to prove in his next job. I think neither side has any incentive right now to trust the other or to give trust. And so we're going to see a lot of nasty stuff come out over the next couple of weeks. And I don't think it doesn't look like Orlando's got zeroed in on him. It doesn't look like New Orleans is zeroed in on him. It doesn't look like Denver is zeroed. So I think we could be heading for that exact scenario where they finally do cut him loose after all the jobs are filled. He ends up as an assistant coach. I could see him back out here in L.A. with Doc Rivers on his staff. So there's any number of teams that would take him as their lead assistant coach, associate head coach, run the defense. But I could see that scenario play out because I don't see any of the teams with vacancies making a big run at him right now.
This is my thing. First of all, George, you're absolutely correct. This isn't new hat for the Chicago Bulls. I was on Dickerson and Hood probably about a month and a half ago in Chicago, and I brought it up to them. Like, this is what the Bulls are known for. They've been known to be a cheap team that does people dirty. And they're like, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. They got Scotty paid. I said, no. The Rockets paid Scotty. The Bulls merely did a sign and trade so they can get some stuff back for him. They didn't pay Scotty. They didn't pay anyone but Michael, and they didn't pay him until the last 2 years because they had to. They didn't pay Phil. They pushed him out the door. And so, to me, this is part and parcel, I think. And then it also extends to Paxson. We can't let him off the hook. People forget about how he handled the Vinny Del Negro situation. I don't care if you hate your coach, if you love your coach, if you see a better coach on the horizon. You don't do that in a professional environment where you physically engage an employee. I don't care. There's no part of the game that includes that. And this is more of the same. This is more of the same with Tibbs, because guess what? Ramona, you say, why would you help, why would they help Tibbs if he's doing all these things? I said this about the Phoenix Suns when they were throwing darts at Goran Dragic after he was out the door. Guess what? There's going to be a line of teams that are interested in that dude's services. But you're the one who has to live with the reputation. We're the team that screwed over Tom Thibodeau, just like we screwed over Phil, and we screwed over Vinny, and we screwed over Scottie Pippen, and we screwed over all of these guys. It's a long list of dudes that have been screwed by the Bulls, and Tibbs is just another illustrious name to that list. You're the one that looks bad. You're the one that has to convince people to come to Chicago. How many players didn't come sign in Chicago? Remember, they cleared all that cap space, and guys wouldn't go. Kevin Garnett wouldn't go. Eddie Jones wouldn't go. They couldn't get anybody there. You know why? Because they all said the same thing. They did that to the greatest player of all time. What are they going to do to me? They did that to Phil Jackson. What are they going to do to me? And so the same thing is going to happen. They're going to see Tibbs out the door the way they do it. And if I'm an up-and-coming coach, unless I have zero other opportunities in life, I'm going to look at the Bulls and I'm going to say, hold up. The last dude in there won, damn near 50 games a year and had the best defense almost every year, and they ran him out with a pitchfork and screwed him over on the way out. You don't like him. You don't want him. Fire him. Why are you guys fretting about getting a pick back? He's no good, right? He's not a good enough coach for you, so you let him go. The only reason why they want something back for him is because they're in CYA mode, because they're afraid he goes to Orlando makes the playoffs, Tibbs is coach of the year, and then everybody in Chicago pulls out their microphone and say, what's up, Pax? I thought you said he was no good.
Well, and the thing about the Bulls front office is this isn't new, right? Like you're referencing things going all the way. Like I think it's yes, there's a narrative that goes all the way back to Phil Jackson, but really that was really more Jerry Krause than Jerry Reinsdorf. But the Vinny Del Negro stuff. Each situation is different. Like his issues with Paxson and how they escalated to a fight. Different issues than they have with Tibbs. Like the issues that people have with Tibbs and the way that he runs players into the ground are well documented, and I think they're valid. Does that mean that he should not be the coach anymore? Until you're in that locker room, until in that building. I personally, when you look at it from the outside, you're like, how can you let this guy go? I mean, you did nothing but lose until you got him, and all you've done now is have a chance to win every year. I'm much more of the school of like keep it. Like when I was there and I did a big long story on it. I would say that locker room was split in terms of real pro Tibbs versus not feeling it anymore. But there were some guys in there who just flat out loved the guy. Taj Gibson loves the guy. Pau Gasol loves the guy. Derrick Rose made a point of telling me that he really enjoys playing for Tibbs. He's learned a lot. He actually thinks Tibbs has evolved as a coach and gotten better and made modifications to the way that he's coached the team, and he's kind of loosened up a little bit. I think you can evolve and grow and deal with it. But I just think all three of those situations, even though they fit a narrative, I think they were very different. And when you look at this current one right here, the only thing that fits in terms of a consistent narrative about the Bulls is simply that I think that Jerry Reinsdorf and the way he runs his organization, he sees the coach and he sees the general manager and the president as the custodians, as the people who are executing his business, his vision and his business ethos and philosophies, whereas the coach is more of a contract employee. And when you have organizations that are set up that way, they're always going to defer to the GM and the president, and they're always going to have more power. And the coaches, they just kind of know. They just at the end of the day, I'm not winning this one. And you're right. I mean, that does affect who takes that job. But you're going to tell me somebody's not going to want to coach Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler and Pau Gasol. That's a great team.
Derrick Rose. First of all, Derrick Rose is a
okay, up and down. Yeah, you're right.
But Ramona, but the point is this. They don't want him. Why? This is like I'm in a relationship.
Yeah,
I break up with my wife.
Pay him off and go.
If I break up with my wife, why do I care who she starts dating after that? I don't want her, right? Break up with her. Why am I looking to make sure, wait, hold on, you can't talk to him, though. Oh, you're going to talk to him. No. You don't want to be with that person. Let them go. Don't play these games, and that's my point. And it may be different characters, but if every time I walk by your house and it doesn't smell right, yeah, it might have been a different person who clogged up the toilet each day, but guess what? It's still happening at that house and not the other houses on the block. It's your house that smells like that.
They got a smelly house, basically, is what you're saying. All right, I guess we'll just leave it at that then. We'll leave it there. So, all right, that'll do it for us. Thanks to Ramona for stopping by and Amin as well. Don't forget, we got another podcast tomorrow, 5 days a week for you here on the NBA Lockdown Podcast. Make sure you check out Ramona's work on ESPN.com and on SportsCenter. Same for Amin, and make sure you tune in to the radio show for me, 7 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio. So, you guys enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the Pod Center page on ESPNradio.com.